Hi again everyone. In this video, this time we're going to go through science questions. So this is a new series. Previously we've been doing maths, but today we're gonna go through some science question. And again, I'm gonna try to keep it maximum 20 minutes. Alright, so the first topic we're gonna do in this series will be on plant reproduction. We're going to focus on answering techniques more than the concepts itself. So the way we are going to go through this how should I say this, maybe series, is we're gonna learn the concept through answering questions. Okay, so there are a few types of questions which we will see, and then we will learn how we approach it. So again, if you feel this is helpful, please consider subscribing, because again, when I upload new videos, you'll be notified so that you can be updated with the new videos that I've uploaded. Okay, so let's go on to the first question. Alicia studied a flower as shown in the diagram below. She made notes on the flower's characteristics. So it's very important to take note of the words that they use in the question. Okay, so basically one of the things that I always tell my students is to use the words in the questions. Now, for science, it's a bit tricky because sometimes some schools, I can say they demand that you use certain key phrases or certain keywords, even though maybe you might use another word or another key phrase. But if they feel like you miss out on the thing that they want you to use, they will penalize you. Okay, so what I'll give or how I answer would be based on how I have how should I say, or how I feel that most schools would have no issues accepting. Okay, but let's say if you use the answering technique that I've shown here and you are penalized for whatever reason, just take note of why you made that mistake, okay, or what your teacher feels like you are missing in the answer, and you just add on, or you substitute the words that I use with the one that they accept. Alright, so let's continue with this question. Based on the diagram above, how is the flower likely to be pollinated? Alright, so we have to answer based on the diagram that we have here. And we have two clues: brightly colored petals, pollen grain. Now, so for this kind of question, you need to remember the concepts. Okay, so you have flowers, okay, pollinated, okay, by, there's number one, animals, okay, number two, wind. And both of them have their own characteristics. Okay, they have their own characteristics. Now, I have my own sets of notes. I might include it here. Okay, I might include it. Yeah, so you just look for the link in the description and go through the notes. You should be able to find all the necessary concepts. But how we're going to apply it is where we're going to learn it here in the video. Now, I'm not going to go through in details, but we will focus on these brightly colored petals. Alright, so brightly colored petals is a signal or a clue that they are pollinated by animals. Okay, so how do we answer? Alright, use the words from the question. The flower is likely to be pollinated by animals. So this is how we answer the question. It's a direct question. How? How is a direct question? Now, for the second question, explain how both characteristics of the flower help it in pollination. So this is where a lot of students will face problems in answering the explain question. They're not sure. Now, I have students, in fact, many of my students says that they are taught the CER. Okay, so we have the claim, we have explain, we have reason. Now, the problem with this, they don't understand what is claim, what is explain, what is reason. I've asked most of them, they said, oh yes, I've learned CER, my teacher taught me CER. But when I asked them, okay, tell me what is claim. Oh, claim is, then they pause for a while. If they can answer claim, then I ask them, so how do you explain? They are not sure. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're not gonna use CER. If your teacher use CER, it's fine. I'm just gonna change the name. That's all. But we'll still have 3 components. Okay, we'll still have 3 components. It's just that I'm gonna change the name of the components. So you can see we're gonna take a bit of time to answer the question. Okay, because we need to go through some basics in answering techniques. For me, I'll use observation, okay, and then concept, and the last, conclusion. Alright, out of all the 3, concept will be the most difficult to master. Observation and conclusion is very simple, especially conclusion, because you're going to lift from the answer only. I mean from the question. Now, observation also, you use the words that's found in the question. Okay, so for this case, how are we going to answer? Now, we'll break this down into the different parts. Instead of just one straight answer, we'll break it down into our first part, which is the observation. And remember, the main important thing is to use the words that's in the question. So we have here observation, what we see. Okay, basically observation is a what question. Okay, it's a what question here. Concept is a why question. So what do I mean? I will explain this a bit more. So let's start with the observation. It's a what question. We've already answered part of the question actually. Okay, we said that it's pollinated by animals. So what do we see / know? What do we see or know from this question that made us say that, oh, it's pollinated by animals? There must be something that we saw. So what did we see? We see brightly colored petals. We see pollen grain with rough surface. Now, but for this case, it's slightly different. It's not really asking about pollinated by animals, but it's asking about how the characteristics helps it in pollination. Okay, but we need to link it with the animals because we've already answered it's pollinated by animals, and this is the keyword, the pollination. So we need to focus on the how it's pollinated by animals. So our observation will have to include the words from the question. Okay, in fact, most of the observation that you'll see, how I'm going to answer later on, will involve using words from the question itself. So the first part, I will say, the flower has brightly colored petals and pollen grains with rough surface. As you can see, I did not do any fancy things here. I'm just using the words from the question. Of course, sometimes you need to edit a bit. Alright, you don't use all the words, you change some of it here and there. Alright. Okay, next is the concept. This is where students struggle to answer, and it's a why question. So what do I ask? I ask why. Okay, why my observation, okay, this is the observation, will help me in this? Okay, so if I were to write the question, I will say why when the flower sorry, let me write that properly. Why when the flower has brightly colored petals and pollen grains with rough surfaces, okay, it is, or it helps in the pollination. Okay, so that's the next part here. Let me erase the conclusion here first because I need some space. Okay, so I've used the why here and I go back to my observation. So this is my why and this is just the observation. Brightly colored petals, pollen grains with rough surface, as you can see. That's what I wrote down here. And I'm going back to the question. Okay, help it in pollination. Okay, so you have to answer this why question. Now, usually the concept will not be found in the question itself. Okay, you need to refer back to the textbooks or the notes that you learn. Okay, so basically, what is the function or what is the purpose of the brightly colored petals? What does it do? How does it help? Okay, so if you learned your notes, or if you remember your notes carefully, the brightly colored petals has a function. Of course, it has a function. And what's the function? So the brightly colored petals helps to attract, okay, you can say pollinators or you can say animals, and I'm sure they should accept if you say insects. Okay, but I'll try to avoid insects because sometimes they are pollinated by birds. So you can use the word pollinators. Okay, help to attract pollinators, animals or insect. Alright, should not be an issue there. Okay, the next part is, because we have two things here. A lot of students, they might forget that, okay, I'm just going to talk about the brightly colored petals, but they forget about the pollen grains with rough surface. Alright, and the pollen grains with rough surfaces. Okay, so what, again, from the notes, what happens or what is the function of pollen grains? Okay, and these rough surfaces, so the pollen grains with rough surfaces increases the chances of the pollen grain sticking onto the animals. I think that should be fine. You don't need to mention the animal's body or the animal's leg. Onto the animals, they should be fine. Okay, so again, the concept, the brightly colored petals helps to attract pollinators. That's what you learn in the textbook or in your notes if you have some notes written down. And what's the function of pollen grain? Okay, pollen grain sticks onto animals. For this case, which is flower that is pollinated by animals. So you can see, quite straightforward. Just taken from your textbook or from your notes. And the last part is the conclusion, lifted from the question. And I've mentioned before, the conclusion is the easiest. So these are both characteristics of the flower help it in pollination. There you go. Okay, so this is something that you can this keyword here, or this key phrase, where is it? Increases the chances, okay, of. We'll use this quite a few times depending on the question. Okay, so this is the way we answer or we tackle this whole question here. Now you can see we did only one question and we've taken I think about 15 minutes or so. Alright, so the teaching will take a bit of time. I'll try my best to go through different types of question and common questions. Alright, next question. Eldon counted the number of young plants G at various distances from the parent plant in a garden. He plotted the graph as shown below. So again, we have words from the question, especially if they have table and graphs. There's a high chance that you have to make use of these words here, or these phrases here. And we can see here, you read the graph, alright, as the distance increases, distance away from the parent plant increases, the number of young plants increases. So what I did was I just answered a relationship question. Alright, if we see the relationship question later on in maybe other videos, we will go through a bit more in detail. Now, this is again based on what you have learned. Okay, the patterns of dispersal. Okay, by animals, okay, let's say you have a parent plant X here. By animals, it will just scatter anywhere, it doesn't matter. Alright. Now, by a river, or I mean by water, it will just follow the flow of water. It will flow, it will just disperse along the riverbed or the shoreline. Alright, and if it's by wind, it will follow the wind direction. Usually there's a wind direction. Even if they don't have the wind direction, you can see the pattern. Okay, it follows the wind like that. So it's very different from animals. And the last one, by explosive action, splitting or explosive action, it will somewhat be in this kind of pattern. Now, explosive action, it will be near and around. Of course, there are key phrases. All of these, they have key phrases, and I can't explain it in this one video because it will take a long time. What I can do for you guys is I will include the notes itself, but of course there probably won't be the key phrases there. So the key phrases you will go through here, but it's based on questions. Alright, I have notes from my other students that I've done for them, but it's not based on topic, it's not topical. There you for them, they will have, I can say, almost a complete key phrases for the different topics. Okay, so for example, in this case, if I'm talking about only these two, okay, I won't have time to okay, this one is again by splitting explosive action, this one is by wind. I won't have time to explain the key phrases for animals and for by water. Okay, so let's carry on because we don't have much time left. Which of the following is fruit G? As you can see, as the distance increase, the number of young plants increases, so it's by wind. Okay, now based on the information given above, explain your answer. This is where I want to focus a bit more on. Now, we did the explain question before, and we have what we call the observation. And I said observation, we use words from the question. And in this case, alright, whenever there is a graph, whenever there is a table, there's a high chance that the observation, you will need to use, for the observation, you need to use the words from the table or from the graph. So in this case, we're going to say, okay, you can even write the relationship for this observation. As the distance away from the parent plant increases, the number of young plants increases. Okay, so this is what you can write down. And then what's the concept? Okay, so the concept will be okay, here they did not identify or give us they did not name the different seeds. They did not say this is sorry, let me move that back. Okay, they did not say that, oh, this is fruit or seed A and this is seed B. They did not say. So this one is for this question is a bit tricky. Alright, so what we're gonna write down is, okay, we need to do a comparison. Now, okay, for now, let's just give this a name so it's easier for me to help you in the answering technique itself, because again the focus is answering technique. So let's say we give this a name. This is fruit A. Okay, this is fruit B. Sorry, I'm not sure why I wrote A again. Okay, so this is fruit B. Okay, by right it should label fruit A, fruit B. It's easier for us when we want to answer the question. Alright, so back to the question again, and the focus is important because we have already chosen fruit B. So we're going to talk about fruit B. Okay, the soft hair-like structure. Okay, let's say here they did not name, so you cannot say found on fruit B. So you just say the soft hair-like structure, that's all. But again, I'm focusing on answering technique. So the soft hair-like structure found on fruit B. So this is just an observation of the fruit. This is where the key phrase comes in for this question. Okay, or rather for this topic. The soft hair-like structure found on fruit B helps to keep it afloat in air longer. So this is the first key phrase. Okay, if it's a wing-like structure, you will say the wing-like structure. For this case, is the soft hair-like structure found on fruit B helps to keep it afloat in air longer, to be carried by wind further away from the parent plant or parent plants. Okay, so this is the next part of the key phrase. To be carried by wind further away from the parent plants. And remember, we need to do a comparison. Alright, so what's the clue for the comparison? There's more than one seeds. So you need to sort of back up your answer why you choose B. Okay, not just by giving the explanation for B, but you also need to give why you don't choose A. Okay, but for seed A, again, this is a key phrase. It has a pod-like structure that will split open when dry and will shoot out the seeds near and around the parent plants. There you go. So there's two key phrases here. Okay, so the first key phrase is this one, keep it afloat in air longer. This is the first key phrase. Second is carried by wind further away from the parent plant. Alright, so this is for seeds that are dispersed by wind. For seeds that are dispersed by explosive action, this is the key phrase. Pod-like structure, split open when dry, will shoot out the seeds near and around the parent plant. So these are the key phrases. Now the key phrases are very important because it helps you in your answering technique. Okay, so for now, I think we've gone over 20 minutes. I think we've reached the 25 minutes actually. Alright, so we'll continue the next part in another video. So remember the answering technique: observation, concept, conclusion. Okay, sorry, I think we just finished off with the conclusion. We didn't write the conclusion. Okay, so how do we finish the conclusion? For the conclusion, so seed B is the young of plant G. Where did I get this word? From the question, remember. There you go. Okay, sorry, it's the fruit of plant G. Okay, so again, always check what you have written. Alright, so it's not the young of plant G, sorry. Seed B is the fruit of plant G. There you go. Alright, so observation, concept, conclusion. Observation is just what you see. Concept is taken from your notes or from your book. Alright, you learn this from your book. Okay, that the soft hair-like structure or the wing-like structure, what does it do? It keeps the fruit afloat in air longer so that it can be carried by wind further away from the parent plants. And for the pod-like structure, or for the seeds dispersed by explosive action, you learned that they have pod which splits open when dry. And what happens when they split open when dry? They will shoot out seeds near and around the parent plants. Okay, and the conclusion, just take it from the question. There you go. Alright. So hopefully this has been helpful. I know it's quite short. We didn't go through a lot. But the whole purpose is so that you do not need to sit for too long. And you can go through the questions at your own pace. And whenever you think you are ready to carry on, you can always go to the next part of the video. Alright, so again, if this is helpful, please consider subscribing. That will be very, very helpful. And please share this channel to other friends that you feel that maybe it can help them and it's beneficial for them. Thank you very much once again, and see you in the next video.